Hi, it's me again, Professor Guess, and we are talking about the scope of logic. So the very first reading you're doing in the book is under the logic section. It's called The Scope of Logic. All right. Now, I don't know if you've done the reading yet. You're watching this first and then doing the reading. Whichever way you find works for you. Doesn't matter. Really, for the videos, I'm just going over main ideas to make sure that you understand them, to make sure you understand that you're getting the right material from the essay. So the scope of logic basically covers some very basic main ideas in philosophy, in logic. So you know what an argument is. Well, an argument consists of premises and a conclusion. A premise is just a statement that supports a conclusion. If you're an English major, you call it a declarative sentence. It's something that you say is true or false. Okay? So premises support your conclusion. If you do it correctly, your premises will prove your conclusion. And if that happens, it's called valid. So if the premise is true, then the conclusion must be true is the definition of valid. We'll come back to that in a minute. Now, for the logic section, we're going to be setting them up in a very traditional premise, conclusion format. It can have more premises than two. We're going to do most of the examples today in the next class with just two premises because this is the beginning. Okay. When you move forward into this semester and we're reading the material and the essays, they're not going to be put in the premise, conclusion format. You're going to have to read it and recognize which ones are the premises. It's helpful to know what indicator words are. Indicator words indicate what's to come. So if I wanted to say, you're going to pass this class because you got all A's. The word because is an indicator word for a premise. Because comes before a premise. Now, if I say, you received all A's this semester, therefore you received an A, the word therefore is an indicator word, and therefore indicates a conclusion. So if you're not sure when you're just reading it, whether this sentence is a premise or a conclusion, you can look for indicator words because they can help you along. In the book, you'll see there's several. So is an indicator word for a conclusion. Therefore is an indicator word for a conclusion. Because is an indicator word for premises. I'm not going to go over all of the indicator words. You can look in the book for that. The videos are just short explanations of the essay and to point out the things that you need to make sure you know from the essay. So know what an indicator word is and know which words indicate which thing, whether it's a premise or a conclusion. Now, other things you need to know. Make sure you know the terms. What does an argument consist of? It consists of premises and conclusion. What is a premise? A premise is a sentence that supports a conclusion. What is logic concerned with? Logic is concerned with the connection between the premises and then the conclusion. It makes sense. Think about it. You have to create your premises in such a way that they prove your conclusion. So logic is concerned with the connection between the premises and the conclusion. If the connection holds, you have a good argument, and we call it valid. If the connections are weak or don't hold, then you have a bad argument. It doesn't support the conclusion. It doesn't prove the conclusion, and we call that invalid. So I'll give you an example. Argument 1. Premise 1. All women wear glasses. Premise 2. Sarah is a woman. Conclusion. Sarah wears glasses. Is that valid? Well, how do you test it? You assume the truth of your premises. And if based on that assumption, the conclusion has to be true, then it's a valid argument. So, and this shows that the premises are connected into the conclusion in such a way as to prove it. So if we know that all women wear glasses and that Sarah is a woman, we then have to know that Sarah wears glasses, because if she's a woman, she has to wear glasses, because you have to assume the truth of your premises. Is it true in real life? No. If it was true in real life and it was valid, it would be called sound. A sound argument is both valid and true in real life. All right, let's compare this to another one. How about premise 1? All women wear glasses. Premise 2. Sam wears glasses. Conclusion, Sam is a woman. Now, look at it again. Premise 1, all women wear glasses. Premise 2, Sam wears glasses. So if Sam wears glasses, does that prove he's a woman? Or she's a woman? No. Alright, just because you wear glasses doesn't prove you're a woman. We know that if you're a woman that you must wear glasses, because premise 1 says all women wear glasses. Sam wears glasses. Well, just because Sam wears glasses doesn't prove that Sam is a woman. Sam could be short for Samantha, but those two premises don't prove Sam is a woman. So the connection between the premises and the conclusion fail, and it doesn't support it. It's an invalid argument. Two main ideas that you have to understand and to be able to do this in this essay and in the upcoming essays is tell the difference between a valid and an invalid argument, and tell the difference between a deductive and an inductive argument. I want to practice valid and invalid, and then I'll tell you how it's connected to inductive and deductive. Now, how do you test for validity? Assume the truth of your premises. If based on that assumption you have to accept the conclusion is true, it's a valid argument. If it's possible for the premises to be true and the conclusion false, it's invalid because the premises did not support that conclusion in such a way that it has to be true. Okay? So, keep in mind, these arguments do not have to be true in real life. There's the idea that you hear something that's obviously false and you think, there has to be something wrong with it. It can't be a valid argument. But it can be valid. It's just not sound. Sound is true in real life and valid. I'll give you an example. Premise 1. Everything that emits oxygen is evil. Premise 2. Trees emit oxygen. Conclusion. Trees are evil. Is this a valid argument? I'll give you a moment. A dramatic pause. It's valid. Is it true? Well, no. Trees aren't evil. But it is a valid argument that if the premises were true, the conclusion would have to be true. Because premise 1, everything that emits oxygen is evil. Trees emit oxygen. If trees emit oxygen, then it has to be evil. The conclusion is proven. Trees are evil. It's not sound, but it's valid. Okay? Let me do one more at least. All right. How about this one? Premise 1. There are 17 chairs in the classroom. Premise 2. Every chair in the classroom has a student in it. Conclusion. There are 17 students in the classroom. I want you to think about this. I'm going to say it again and actually think about it. Make sure you take it at face value. Accept exactly what it says and nothing more and nothing less. Premise 1. There are 17 chairs in the classroom. Okay, we have 17 chairs in the classroom. Premise 2. There is a student in every chair. Okay, so we have a student in every chair, and there are 17 chairs in the classroom. Conclusion. There are 17 students in the classroom. Is that valid or is that invalid? Pause, pause, pause. It's invalid. Why is it invalid? Think about what is said. You have to be literal in logic. Just take it for exactly what's said. There are 17 chairs in a classroom. Not a problem. We assume the premises are true. Premise 2. Every chair in the classroom has a student in it. Okay. Does that prove there are 17 students in the classroom? No. That proves there are at least 17 students in the classroom. Have you ever been in the classroom and they run out of chairs and you stand up or you sit on the floor? Sure. We don't know there are 17 students in the classroom. We know there are at least 17 students in the classroom. So in logic, you have to be careful. You have to take things literally. Take it for exactly what's said. Don't add, don't subtract, exactly as it's written. Okay? Now, how about this one? All clocks are black and white. Premise 2. I have a clock in my bedroom. Conclusion. The clock in my bedroom is black and white. Valid or invalid? I'll say it again. Premise 1. All clocks are black and white. Premise 2. I have a clock in my bedroom. Conclusion. The clock in my bedroom is black and white. How do you test for validity? Assume the truth of your premises. If based on that assumption you have to accept the conclusion is true, it's valid. If it's possible for the conclusion to be false, it's invalid. So have we proven our conclusion? Premise 1. All clocks are black and white. Premise 2. I have a clock in my bedroom. So if all clocks are black and white, there's a clock in my bedroom, then we have proven that the clock in my bedroom is black and white because all clocks are black and white. All right. Now, we've just covered some basic terms you need to know and how to test for validity, how to tell the difference between valid and invalid. Now let's talk about the difference between deductive and inductive. All right. There are two major categories in logic, type of logical arguments. There is the inductive type of logical argument and the deductive logical argument. In a deductive logical argument, the first characteristic is if the premises are true, then the conclusion must be true. You should recognize what I just said, that is the definition of valid. So a deductive argument is valid. Okay? So the second characteristic is all the information in the conclusion was stated or implied in the premises. So there's no new information in your conclusion. Everything was already stated or implied in your premises. So that's a deductive argument. If you're trying to figure out whether an argument is deductive or inductive, the quickest way to do it, the first thing you do is you test for validity. If the argument is valid, you know it's a deductive argument. Okay? Now, what if it's not valid? What if you haven't proven your conclusion without a doubt, but you gave a high probability that the conclusion is true based on the premise? That is called cogent, C-O-G-E-N-T. And that's the first characteristic of an inductive argument. If the premises are true, the conclusion is most probably true. So in an inductive argument, that if the premises are true, the conclusion is most probably true. So what you're trying to prove in your conclusion in an inductive argument is a probability. There's a high probability based on the premise that the conclusion is true. The second characteristic of an inductive argument, there's more information in the conclusion than was stated or implied in your premises. So in an inductive argument, you're proving a probability. So let's take an example. Premise 1. The sun has risen every day for 1,000,000 years. Conclusion. The sun will rise tomorrow. Now, the question is this inductive or deductive? The quickest way to tell, start by testing for validity. How do you do that? Assume the truth of your premises. We assume it's true that the sun has risen every day for 1,000,000 years. Based on that assumption, do we know without a doubt that the sun is going to rise tomorrow? No. It's done it for 1,000,000 years. Does the fact that it's done it for 1,000,000 years prove it's going to do it tomorrow? Tomorrow hasn't happened yet. Something could happen. It's not going. We'll assume that the sun will rise tomorrow, but we haven't proven the sun's going to rise tomorrow. All right? We just gave a really, really good probability that it's probably going to rise tomorrow. We're 99.9% sure that the sun's going to rise tomorrow. But there's still that 0.1% of doubt that something's not going to happen, then knock the sun out of the sky. Well, the earth out of rotation. Doesn't matter. You get the point. Something could happen. We haven't proven it without a doubt. We just gave a really good probability that the sun's going to rise tomorrow. So that makes it inductive argument. It also fits a second characteristic of an inductive argument. There is more information in the conclusion than was stated in the premises. The premise says the sun has risen every day for 1,000,000 years. Conclusion, the sun will rise tomorrow. Tomorrow was not stated or implied in the premises. That's the second characteristic of an inductive argument. All right. So in addition to reading the scope of logic, make sure you know all the terms. And make sure you know how to tell the difference between valid and invalid and deductive and inductive. We'll do one more real quick. Premise 1. Every movie that Joss Whedon has ever made has been good. Premise 2. Joss Whedon is making a new movie. Conclusion. Joss Whedon's new movie will be good. Now, we want to figure out if it's inductive or deductive. So we start by testing for validity. Assume the truth of your premises. Every movie that Joss Whedon has ever made has been good. Premise 2. Joss Whedon is making a new movie. Conclusion. Joss Whedon's new movie will be good. Have we proven his new movie will be good? Without a doubt, no. We know that every movie he's ever made has been good, but he hasn't finished making the new movie, so it doesn't fit into our category. We don't know it's going to be good, so it's invalid. Now, did we give a high probability for thinking his new movie will be good? Yes. If every movie he's ever made has been good, we'll go see his new movie because we assume his new movie will be good too. That's going to be an inductive argument. Let's do one more. How about this? Premise 1. Every movie Joss Whedon has ever made has been good. Same first premise. Premise 2. Joss Whedon made Avengers. Conclusion. Avengers was a good movie. Deductive or inductive? Test for validity. All right. If it's valid, it's deductive. If it's invalid, but it gave a good probability for the conclusion, it's inductive. Listen to the argument again. Premise 1. Every movie Joss Whedon has ever made has been good. Premise 2. Joss Whedon made Avengers. Conclusion. Avengers was a good movie. Is it valid? Yes. If those premises are true, then the conclusion has to be true. Every movie he's ever made has been good. He made Avengers. If he made Avengers, then it has to be good. Conclusion has been proven. It is a valid argument. And valid arguments are deductive. Okay, so this is the beginning of logic. And you just read the scope of logic. You're going to do your homework on the scope of logic. Make sure you know the terms. know what logic is concerned with, an argument is made up of, know what a fallacy is. I didn't go over that. Look in the book. Know what an indicator word is. Know which words indicate which thing. And then the big area, make sure you can tell the difference between valid and invalid and deductive and inductive. And if you have any questions, come on to the chat room. I'm there on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3:15 to 3:45. I'll stay late. If you have questions, talk to me. If you can't make it to the virtual office hours, just send me an email. Go to the message block on the home page, send me an email. Or just take part in the forum discussion, which you have to do every week, and talk to me there. You have multiple ways that you can talk to me. So, if you have questions, talk to me. I suggest you also reread the essay before you do the homework. And that's it. Enjoy. Logic is a lot of fun, and make sure you know it well, because the rest of the semester we're going to be using the logic we learn. So, enjoy Scope of Logic. I will see you next time.